Hey there, this is Jacob with SurvivalGeek. Today I'm going to be demoing over char cloth. I'm going to also show a little bit about cotton balls and Vaseline, but petroleum jelly is Vaseline. But our main focus today is char cloth. As far as fire starters go for camping or any type of an event where you need to get a fire started, in the pioneering days of old, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, even throughout the 1900s, in a lot of cases today, they would use, I'm already blowing it around, they would use cotton cloth, 100% cotton cloth to start fires with. And they would produce it in such a way to where the cloth would actually go black. And I'm going to demonstrate that today by making char cloth. What we're going to use, today I'm just going to use a stove. This is the E-Tech City stove, liquid gas here, butane, propane mix. I'm using this just because it's fast right now and I can produce it quickly, but you can do it on a campfire with coals. You can do it, Dakota fire hole is one of my favorites. You could do it a stove or a hot plate or a gas burner. I try doing it outside the home. Inside the home, it creates a lot of smoke. A lot of times there's chemicals that burn off because your clothing maybe has some old detergent or a fabric softener in it, cotton balls, different types of things. We're going to go over other types of materials we can use as well that are cotton, that work in the same way as cotton cloth does. Again, it has to be 100% cotton. You don't want to use any other additives like polyester or plastics or other types of stuff. You want cotton. And what we use to light it with is we use, in this case, I'm going to use a ferro rod today. This is by UST. I'm not really a fan of their products, but all this does is it creates sparks. As you can see, it's a sparker. Two types of ferro rods. One type creates, one of the original types creates just a little bit of spark, and then, but they last a lot longer. The second type creates a whole bunch of spark. This would be the second type. They mix in other types of metal like magnesium and other things that cause it to flare up and spark more. The first type lasts a long time. The second type, they wear down more quickly, depending on what you want to get. Or you can go and use the old fire steel method. Fire steel method is you would use a piece of hard steel and you could strike the steel with a rock, typically flint or chert or quartz or a few other rocks. You would strike with and create sparks, and it would work the same way. What's great about char cloth is the fact that once it gets, one spark hits it, it ignites. Typically your fire starter for your fires. I cannot say this enough for this, but when you're beginning to start a fire, make sure that your fire is completely set up. Typically it's like a TP style fire. Your tinder and your kindling, everything's perfect, and all you need is one bit of flame to get that thing to go up. Have all that set up first. That's your first step. This is second. So when you would make these, you would typically start out with a metal tin. They would use different food tins. This is an Altoids tin. It's for mints. I'm gonna move this aside so you can see things. So this is an Altoids tin. This is punched out of one piece of metal. There's no seams in it. If you were to buy tins at like Lowe's or Home Depot or a hardware store, like empty paint cans, all shiny, no paint ever been in them at all, they would typically have a seam on the side. The seam is glued together with some type of adhesive, and the adhesive can melt under high heat and come apart on you or do other things. You don't want that. You want, like in this case, this is punched out of steel, and you don't really have that issue. What also works in those cases is this is a soup can. It can get really high heat as well. As you can see on the side, there's no weld points or anything to where it's all one piece of metal as well. So soup cans work, and I'm going to demonstrate one in a little bit while I get some of this char cloth going for you, and how you can do it with a tuna fish can as well. So without further ado, let's move on here. So what I did is I took a sock. This is cotton as well. You can use a shirt, you can use jeans, you can use any type of cloth, clothing, whatever, as long as it's 100% cotton. You have a ripped shirt, you can tear it into strips. I basically cut off a strip. See here, go a little bit bigger. 1 by 1 inch, 2 by 2 inch works great. Cut here, cut there, cut it in half, okay? This gives me small strips of cotton. So I have a stack here already of cotton. Even though I've already produced some, I'm going to produce some more to show you. Be careful what you touch. Fire is hot, metal gets hot when it gets heated. Be careful what you touch, you can burn yourself. I did it earlier by mistake. Causes burn marks in the skin. In other cases, it can be much deeper burns. You can bleed, you can have different reactions. Just be careful with things. If you get burnt, seek medical attention. Be careful. Always have water sources on the side. I have two props. I have a can I can put things in that's metal, and I also have a can here full of water that I can put out things without starting a fire. So what we do is we take a piece of cloth, we stick it inside the can, and for this case I'm just going to use 2 pieces of cloth, and I kind of space them out so they're all stacked together because they kind of stick together once you start making it. Close the can, and then I'm going to use my heat source here. Heat source is off, not burning my finger. Turn on my gas, click my button, turn up my heat. What's going to happen is it's going to start smoking. When the smoking really stops, deceases and starts to quit, that's when you know it's pretty much complete. You're also going to see flames on the side, flames in the center, okay? What that's going to do, once those flames decease and stop and go down, you typically have char cloth. Cotton can take anywhere from a minute to like 3 minutes, depending on how full it is and what you're doing. Typically, to make one, so like I said, this is very easy. I'm going to use a can. The can at the very top, as you can see on this one, needs to have a hole in the center of the can. It could probably be on the side or something. I've always done center. That's the way I've always heard it. This particular can, the lid stacks back on top. So they make can openers. This is OXO from, I think, Bed Bath & Beyond here in the US, but you can buy these on Amazon or eBay or different sites. This is a sideways cutting. You're probably used to can openers that would actually cut down the can, similar to this, and it would cut straight down and, let's see, more in this case. Cut straight down, and you would have a metal disc that you could actually cut your skin with, kind of like a blade on the end. That's what everybody's used to, automatic can openers. This one in particular, this is done, by the way, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. And the best case for that is I'm going to use a pair of pliers that are double jointed. I'm going to move it back so it's bigger now. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to pull it off. This may pop because it's metal on metal. See, it's conducting with heat. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to turn my flame source down. While that's cooling off, give that a minute or two to cool off. The char cloth inside is going to be red hot. It's going to have coals on it, and you want those coals to go away. So we're trying to block off as much of the oxygen as possible. So I take my can, and to just demonstrate how this works, you have a sideways cutting can opener. It can be a pop top, it doesn't matter. It goes on top, it clicks in place, and now I turn it like I would do a regular can opener. Again, this is OXO brand. I like this one a lot just because it has a side pincher on the side that helps me pull the can top off. Once I get it all around, I can feel that the can's going to be easier turning, and to get it back off, I'm going to reverse it in the opposite direction, and it pulls back off. This one's got a little clip on the side with a button. I can grab the clip on the side, pull it up, or you can just use your fingers, but it pulls back off, and here we go. This is a can of chicken and rice condensed soup by Great Value. That's Walmart's brand name. Walmart around the world. So it pulls back off, and then I can put the can lid back on without it dropping down the center again. So that makes for a very good can that you can do, you can make char cloth in. So I have one over here I've made on the side already, in this particular case. All the way off? Now it's all the way off. I put a screw through mine. I put 2 holes through mine, so the screw I can actually use to grab with a pair of pliers or whatnot when it's all done, and I can pull it off and use it without actually touching the can. So with the hole itself, I'm going to use my Leatherman Surge. You can use an awl, you can use a screwdriver, a nail works the best. And you're just going to take your can, probably not the size of the hole I was looking for, but that still works. And then if you were doing a screw hole, you do one right beside it, maybe 2 inches over, so you can have something to put a screw through. You just want to make that hole to where the screw and the hole are tight together and not really producing any extra oxygen or things coming out. It probably doesn't really matter too much, but you don't want it too big to where the screw falls back down again. You want to make it so it's the hole smaller than the screw. That way you can use a screwdriver and make that screw go all the way in so it's tight fitting and doesn't fall out when you're making everything. So now I have a can I can use and to make char cloth with. And in this case, when you're making it and you're using a can like this has a lid on the side which I can open and close. This one, it can come off kind of easily, and as you're making char cloth, it can develop pressure on the inside sometimes and kind of move the lid off if necessary. What I would do is use something that's metal, like a metal object of some kind, a heavy nut or a bolt or a screw, or it can be a wrench, it could be a bolt, a socket, whatever. Something that's all metal that's not going to melt like plastic, and I would just sit it on the top. That way it applies a little bit of weight to it and it's not going to pop off while it's making it. Right? You're going to pull that metal object off first, and then the lid top as well. And the lid top will come off easier if you use a screw method to take it off like this, rather than trying to grab this, or if you had to, you could use a pair of needle nose pliers on the side, pull it off. Okay, whichever. It may be a little bit more tedious, but try to use gloves, like leather gloves, especially if you're handling the can, pulling the can off. You don't want to burn yourself again. So this one, it's been sitting there a while, so I know they cool down pretty quickly. So I'm going to move this aside. This one, I'm going to dump this out. And there we go. I have char cloth now. Okay? It's very, I can pull at it and it breaks apart easily. But the important part about it is, this is also one of my props. So, I take char cloth now, and I can stick it inside of here. Typically, it's going to create a coal, and you want to use the coal to ignite what they call a bird's nest. It's an artificial bird's nest. You're going to get dry pine straw or leaves or grasses. Grasses and pine straw will work best. It has to be dry. Get a bundle, roll it up in a ball with your hands, roll it together like you're kind of kneading dough. Roll, 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 roll. Crush, 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 roll, crush, roll. And then form it into a ball. Then take your thumb or finger and push a hole in the center of the ball. Then you can take your coal, once it gets lit, whatever you have for a coal, whether it's a bow drill or a fire saw is my favorite for primitive. 2 pieces of the same wood rubbing together. You can look those up on YouTube. Several other primitive methods, as well as this, as well as cotton balls and Vaseline, like a lot of people like. So what you would do is you would take your spark, you would come down here in the center. Thing. Let me stand up here so I have better leverage. There we go. Wasn't getting spark actually on it, but as you can see the sparks, this will continue to burn and it will ignite your artificial bird's nest. Putting on the inside, you're going to close up the hole. You're going to start blowing and blowing and blowing. You're going to see smoke and smoke and smoke. It may take about a minute. Once you start getting some smoke, you're going to wave that thing back and forth. More oxygen, and it's going to flame. You're going to have flame. And the flame you insert into so you have a TP fire lay. You'll have one part of the fire lay open with some extra tinder, some extra dry grass inside. You'll insert your fire on the inside, and it will start burning for you. All that has to be set up first. Don't get flame and then start building your fire, or your flame will disappear and you'll start all over again. While you've got a fire, typically people make more char cloth. That way they can have char cloth to start coals for the next 3, 4, 5 fires. Always thinking ahead. So, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take my water over here I have on the side. Burn my fingers. I don't light the ground on fire. Nice little swirl, it goes out. But like I said, you can use other types of objects to make it. These are those makeup pads you see, or teens will use them with Clearasil or something to try to heal up acne on their face in their teen years or later years, or women will apply makeup with them. And they come in round cotton discs. I cut them into 4ths or into 8ths, and I use them to make char cloth. This works the same way. This has a piece of metal on the inside. It's a 90-degree piece of metal. I'm going to upgrade it a bit. I'm going to use a more knife burrow here. The blue handle one is stainless steel. Nope, that's not working very well. There we go. Back to this again. Typically what these are, when you buy them, they have a black coating around the outside of them. So this is my Gerber Strong Arm. I have a Bayite fire rod here on the side, B-A-Y-I-T-E from Amazon. They're the best ferro rods I've come across. They're type 2. They have a black coating on the outside that prevents them from rusting or having any types of oxidation issues in the rain or in the weather. And you have to get that layer off before you can actually start striking it. And getting that layer off, you won't produce really any sparks. Once the layer comes off, I can get this to work right. There we go. One spark. And as you can see, I have flame. Oh my God, that's hot. Ow. Ow. Yep, I got another burn mark. A roll this morning. So, that's how we make char cloth. The one you guys are more seeing around that people talk about is they'll take petroleum jelly or Vasoline is one of the brand names. You can get off brand names. They'll take a cotton ball, like such, and they will pull it apart. And you want to get the fibers. You see how these have fibers here? You want to show the fibers on the inside. The fibers are what ignite. The petroleum jelly is just an accelerant. So I get the fibers to show. What's nice about these is it can be a puddle of water or snow or whatnot, and you can light this and then take this with a stick or whatnot. You could probably wrap it around the stick and pull out the fibers, light it, and stick that into your fire like a big match or something. But when these light, they will burn for like 1 to 3 minutes. There we go. One spark. Lights. The problem, though, is that you have to have Vaseline or petroleum jelly as an accelerant to keep these going. And if you don't have those, what else do you do? The easiest method is always char cloth, because you can make it in 1 to 3 minutes and you're not wearing out all your excess energy trying to start a fire with a bow drill, which you have to have cordage for if you're making your own, great, or a fire saw, which also requires a lot of energy. I still had fire on top of the water. And it's still got a coal on it on top of the water. Typically you would take these, and I have an old medicine bottle. You would get some string. I'm only bringing this up because a lot of people I hear, I'll mention char cloth and they'll say, well, I could just do the Vaseline ones and that's all I need. So here's what's a Vaseline option, and you can use bacitracin, which is also known as Neosporin, not the cream. You want the one that's similar to Vaseline. You can use that instead, and it serves a dual purpose: it'll light fires and treat wounds. So I tied 2 half hitches, great knot. Not as great as my favorite, which would be a taut line hitch. You can take this, stick it inside your bottle at the very bottom. Now you can pack in more pieces, and I typically take a cotton ball, divide it in half or into fourths. You can take a pair of scissors and cut in half. That way you have more fire starters. And now start packing your bottle. And once you get it full, it's hard to get those pieces out, and all you would do is pull on your string, and it would pull all the layers on top to the surface so you can pull out what you need. And then the string itself, once it's full, you cut your string a little bit excess like a wick and just stick it on top and seal it back up again. And they're pretty watertight as far as things go. I did that with a Sharpie on the outside. My personal details are my own. But I mentioned that one because other people mention it. As far as other cotton items to light, cotton balls work, toilet paper and toilet tissue work, paper towels work. These are items you're going to find around the world for beauty or for treating wounds. Toilet paper or tissue to blow your nose with. You'll find toilet tissue in most places around the world, minus the European countries and other countries that use bidets, spraying off with water. Paper towels work. Anything that's 100% cotton. Sometimes you may have issues, like I said, don't breathe in the smoke when you're using like puffs with lotion tissues. So if you have a cold and you keep wiping, your nose doesn't get red. The lotion helps heal it to where it's keeping it nice and friendly, to where it's not painful or anything. So that being said, I have cotton. This is a cotton ball, and as I pull it apart, you can see the fibers on the inside. The fibers are what I want to light. They're going to spark better than anything else. In this case, I'm just going to use the ferro rod I have on here, my Gerber strong arm. The Gerber, I have a review up on it on my site. You can check it out. I also review one of the Moras, the Mora Black. That's the Bushman one. And come on now. It's not sparking down, it's sparking the blade itself. Oh, there we go. One spark. And you see smoke. Ow. Good Lord. Ah. So, another good method, thing you can use to make sparks is a bastard mill file. Bastard mill file comes in 6, 8, 10 inches, 12 inches. It's used for grinding metal, like sharpening a lawnmower blade or an axe, or I use stones on axes, obviously, but in whichever situation you're in, any type of bigger blades, gurkies, machetes, any other big types of metal you see them used on farms, machine shops. Metal works a lot. You wrap it in a small towel, put it on a piece of concrete or a cinder block or a brick or a rock. Take a hammer or a bigger stone and smack it several times, 4 or 5 times really hard, and it will break into chunks. And those chunks you can grind on a piece of concrete, the edges creating a 90-degree angle. They're the best for striking ferro rods. Big chunks of sparks go everywhere. I see a lot of people will take those and make them 4 or 6 or 8 inches long. They'll drill a hole in one end, ream out the hole with another piece of steel to get the sharp points to go away. Tie a piece of paracord through, braid the paracord like orange or light green or light blue. That way, if it falls in the grass or leaves or pine straw, the mulch, it's easy to find. Okay, and again, those you can also take rocks on those. It's called a poor man's fire steel. Take rocks on those, strike them like you would a regular fire steel, and they will create sparks. Another great one there as well. So I've shown you how to make your own. These particular sideways cutters, Amazon, eBay, type in can openers or sideways can openers. I'm sure they'll have different names, different brands. Like I said, they open up our cans on the side here, even the ones, the pop tops. It doesn't matter what type of can as long as it's round. Let's see here. Altoid tins work the best. There is a modification for the Altoids tins. Typically when you get these, when you close them, they lock because they have tabs here on the side. And what I've done is I take a pair of needle nose pliers and I squeeze the tabs. Okay? This is a Leatherman. These run $100 for the Leatherman Surge. I love this multi-tool. It's my favorite. I use it every day. But you can use a cheap $1 pair of needle nose pliers from Walmart or the Dollar Tree or Harbor Freight or whatever hardware store you go to and do the same exact thing. And like I said, you'll squeeze them once real hard, firmly on each side, and what that does is it makes this go flat. So what happens is I can open this a lot easier. So when I'm back over, when it's here, you can also take a paper clip, a thicker one. I've bended mine over and I've bent the head up just a little bit with a pair of pliers. Grab the head and bent it up just a little bit, so it gives a little bit of a rise. And what this allows me to do is I can easily grab the can and pick it up. Once this is done, on here the flames and smoke have disappeared. What you'll want to do is, after you waited 1 or 2 minutes, take the tin and flap it up a few times, get the smoke and inside, it'll dissipate, and then you can lift it up and see if your char cloth is still red, there's still a coal. If there is, close the lid. It's not done yet. Once you open it and those coals have disappeared, then you have char cloth. You can take plastic baggies. You can go to Walmart and look at the sewing aisle, the crafts aisle, and they sell 4-ounce and 2-ounce plastic baggies. They use them for beads and whatnot. I have an ongoing joke with different people. I call them drug bags because that's what they look like. But really, you don't use drugs. I don't use drugs. I would never go that route. But those are sealable Ziploc bags. They keep things dry. You can put them inside of kits, pack them with char cloth. You only need a little bit to make your coal with, and once you make your coal into its bird nest and do what you got to do, oxygen is key at that point. You have your flame, stick it inside your fire lay, TP fire lay typically, or you can I used a cereal box with tin foil on top. I always carry a big giant sheet of heavy-duty tin foil, fold it up several times inside my fire kit, pressed against 2 hard surfaces really hard, makes it super flat. And you can unfold it, put it on top of a cereal box, stick that underneath a fireplace where you have your main grid. After you lay all your fire lay, different vertical, horizontal, all your kindling stacked up and your tinder, and your logs on top, you can take your tin foil and stick it on top of your box and take your, at that time you would probably use a bird nest, or you could create a bird nest out of a newspaper, a different paper, and use this, blow on it, get it lit, stick it on top of the tin foil, and it acts as a riser, allowing you to light things a lot easier if you only had a little bit to work with. So paper towels, toilet paper, and like I said, this is just a sock, and I can create lots of char cloth for several different fires very easily. And I don't have to have any petroleum jelly or any other accelerants to do what I need to do. And like I said, under 5 minutes, under 4 minutes, you have char cloth, and pack it away and keep going. You can store your char cloth in your tin. I store this in my tin. You can even store some of your newly cut pieces. T-shirts are very thin, 100% cotton T-shirts. They work very well, and you can get several patches. Handgun rifles, at the store they sell cleaning patches. They're already pre-cut. Those work very well. They're very thin. You want to have a little bit of a thickness to it. Too thin, like paper, doesn't work very well because it burns up. It's too crispy. I've seen it create a few sparks, but nothing long-lasting. Business cards don't work very well. A lot of them have a plastic coating or something over the front you can't see, so it helps to retain the ink or helps it not to run. But in this case, I like it. There's a folding top to it. It's got a hinge in the back. They last for a long time. These are sold at checkouts as well as the candy aisle in most stores, from drugstores to Walmart to Target to just about anywhere. You probably find them at Lowe's or Home Depot in the candy side of the checkouts. But these work extremely well. You could even put a rubber band or a strap around it, or Velcro strap to hold it closed if you have stuff on the inside. And you could even put one of the Ziploc bags of your char cloth on the inside as well. go ahead and end the video here. I don't want to keep it running too long here. So I think I've said what I need to say. My channel, I have a new logo at the top. It's a green smiley face, so if you recommend me to other people, tell them to look for the green smiley face. There's another gentleman out there, or man or woman, that has SurvivalGeek, but they have a space in between theirs. I think a lot of some of my followers clicked on that one when I suggested myself, and they never see any videos because the guy has like one, or girl has maybe 1 or 2 videos posted, and it's nothing to what I do. So SurvivalGeek is one word. Green smiley face. Check me out. Like, comment on the video, and subscribe. I will catch you guys in another video. I continue to do more reviews, and I showed you some of the other things here just because people comment on them. I didn't want to lead astray from the char cloth, but I did want to show you how this works and how it can be a problem because you would need more petroleum jelly if you couldn't find it in a survival situation when just a tin or maybe 2 of these. I've never had one burn out, but that could be a possibility if it's too thin. But regardless, even soup cans and tuna fish cans and meat cans and whatnot, you can find anywhere, typically, even the old trash cans. So I will catch you guys at another time period, and thank you for watching. Take care.